My girlfriend handed me her phone and said, "Hold this, I'll be right back." I didn't check anything, didn't unlock it, but the screen lit up on its own with a message she wasn't supposed to receive yet. That's when I realized I wasn't the only one waiting for her. And the worst part, even after seeing that message, I still hoped I was wrong. If you've ever trusted someone so completely that you forgot to trust yourself, stay with me. Because this isn't just my story. I was never the jealous type. I mean that genuinely. My friends, they'd check their girlfriend's location at 11 p.m., scroll through their followers, read between every single text. I never did any of that. Not because I was naive, because I actually believed trust was something you gave without conditions. The moment you start putting conditions on it, it's not really trust anymore. It's just fear wearing a nicer outfit. And Sarah never gave me a reason to doubt her. At least that's what I told myself. We'd been together for 2 years, not just 2 years, 26 months. I know the exact count because after that night, my brain stopped keeping track, like a clock that just stops. Doesn't break dramatically, doesn't fall off the wall, just quietly stops. Sarah was specific about everything. That was one of the first things I noticed about her. She took exactly 1.5 spoons of sugar in her coffee. Not 1, not 2, 1.5, every single time. She always had subtitles on, even for English movies. She said she liked catching every word. She never said goodnight directly. She'd send a random meme, something completely unrelated, and then right after, "Okay, go to sleep." That was her goodnight. I knew these things, and I thought knowing them meant I knew her. I was wrong. The night it happened was completely ordinary. That's the thing no one tells you about moments that change everything. They don't announce themselves. There's no dramatic music, no warning. You're just living a normal Tuesday and then you're not. We were at her apartment. She'd made dinner. Nothing special, just pasta. I was holding her phone because she'd picked up a glass of water and her hands were full. She handed it to me like it was nothing. Because to her, in that moment, it was nothing. "Hold this, I'll be right back," she said, and walked toward the bathroom. I sat on the couch, phone in my hand. I looked at the TV. A few seconds passed. Then her screen lit up. I didn't touch it. I didn't unlock it. The notification just appeared. Preview was on. She usually turned it off, but hadn't yet. I didn't want to read it, but eyes are honest even when we're not. They just read, automatically, without asking permission. There was a name I didn't recognize, and underneath it, a message that said, "After tomorrow, you should be free. Tell him it's over. Then we can actually make plans." I sat there, phone in my hand, screen went dark, and somewhere inside me, something quietly came apart. Not loudly. Not the way it happens in movies where someone throws something or starts crying or demands answers immediately. It was quieter than that. Like something that had been holding itself together just let go. Gently. Without a sound. Sarah came back from the bathroom. She took her phone from me. She smiled. I smiled back. And we finished dinner. I drove home that night and didn't say a word about it. And for the next few hours, I just sat with it. That message. Those words. Replaying them the way you replay a song you're not sure you heard correctly. Hoping a second listen changes the lyrics. Tell him it's over. Him. Me. My brain started building explanations immediately. That's what brains do when the truth is too heavy. They start constructing alternatives. Lighter ones. Ones you can actually carry. Maybe it was an ex she was finally cutting off, and someone was pushing her to do it sooner. Maybe it was a friend's situation and I read it completely wrong. Maybe the preview cut off and there was context I didn't have. Maybe I was being paranoid. I held on to maybe like it was a life jacket. That's what we do, isn't it? When we love someone and something feels wrong, we don't run toward the truth. We run toward the version of events where we don't have to blow everything up, where the 26 months stay intact, where the future we'd quietly been building in our heads is still possible. So I didn't call her, didn't ask, told myself I'd see how things felt in the morning. But before I fell asleep, I noticed one thing. That night, for the first time in 26 months, her goodnight meme never came. The next 3 days, I watched her differently. Not obsessively. I wasn't going through her phone or following her or any of that. I just stopped filtering what I saw. When you love someone, you unconsciously apply this layer of warmth to everything they do. Their distance becomes they're having a rough week. Their short replies become they're tired. Their distraction becomes they've got a lot going on. You're not lying to yourself exactly. You're just interpreting everything through the lens of love. And love is generous, maybe too generous sometimes. But once that first crack appears, once you see something you can't unsee, the lens shifts and suddenly everything looks different. Not because things changed, because you stopped softening them. Sarah started placing her phone face down whenever I was around, every single time. I'd never noticed that before, but now I couldn't stop noticing it. She replied to someone mid-conversation once and said it was a work thing. The way she said it was just a half second too smooth, like a line that had been rehearsed without meaning to rehearse it. She canceled plans 2 days in a row, said she wasn't feeling well. Both times she posted Instagram stories within an hour of canceling. Nothing incriminating, just her at home, but she wasn't too tired to be on her phone. Individually, none of this meant anything. Together, it was a pattern, and I kept ignoring the pattern, not because I was stupid, because I was scared. That's the honest truth. I was scared that if I asked the question out loud, I'd have to live with whatever the answer was. And I wasn't ready, because losing her wasn't just losing her. It was losing the version of my life that had her in it. The Sunday mornings, the inside jokes, the future I'd imagined that I'd never told her about because some things feel too fragile to say out loud. I wasn't ready to lose all of that. So I stayed quiet. 3 days after the first message, I was back at her place. We were watching a show we'd been putting off for months. One of those we'd always said, we'll start it this weekend, and never did. We were finally watching it, which, looking back, is almost funny. We were finally doing the thing we kept promising ourselves, right at the exact moment everything was about to fall apart. Her phone buzzed. She looked at it, a few seconds, then she held it out to me. Can you hold this? I need to grab something from the kitchen. I took it, and this time I didn't look away fast enough. The screen was still on, same name. Did you talk to him yet? Do you think he suspects anything? He, him, me. I was the him in that conversation. I was the variable they were managing, the situation that needed to be handled, the person they were coordinating around. I sat there holding her phone and I felt something I hadn't expected to feel in that moment. Not anger, not sadness, just this strange, hollow clarity. Like when a fog you've been walking through for days suddenly lifts and you can finally see exactly where you are, even if where you are is somewhere you never wanted to be. Sarah came back from the kitchen. She looked at me, then at the phone in my hand. And for a few seconds, neither of us said anything. "Who is this?" I asked. My voice was calm, genuinely calm. Not performed calm, not trying not to explode calm. I think I was past the part where I needed to yell. I was at the part where I just needed to know. She didn't answer right away. "How long?" I said. She looked down. "A few months." A few months. I did the math without meaning to. A few months inside 26 months. A few months of whatever this was, running parallel to whatever we were. 2 timelines existing at the same time, and I was only living in one of them. Was it ending? I asked. That first message, 3 days ago, was it ending? She looked up at me then, really looked at me. "You knew." "I know now." She wanted to explain. I could see it. Everything she wanted to say was right there, building behind her eyes. The justifications, the context, maybe even an apology. Maybe she had reasons that made sense to her. Maybe she'd been unhappy and hadn't known how to say it. Maybe it was complicated in ways I wasn't seeing. But I didn't ask. Not because I was being cruel, but because I understood in that moment that some answers don't actually help. You think they will. You think if you just understand the why, the pain will make more sense. But it doesn't work that way. The why doesn't undo the what. And sitting there listening to the explanation felt like agreeing to be hurt more slowly. I put her phone on the table, I picked up my jacket, and I left. People always ask what after feels like they expect some kind of defined stage. Anger first, then sadness, then acceptance. Neat and sequential like chapters in a book. It's not like that. It's more like you're fine, and then you're not, and then you're fine again, and then something small completely underdoes you. You make coffee in the morning and your hand reaches for a second mug before your brain catches up. You see something funny, and your first instinct is to text her. You're driving and a song comes on and you're back in her car on a road trip you took 8 months ago, and it hits you all over again like it's brand new. The grief isn't linear. It comes in waves, and some waves are small and some waves knock you completely off your feet with no warning. I blamed myself for a while. I think most people do when something like this happens. You go back through everything looking for the moment you failed, the thing you didn't say, the attention you didn't give, the version of yourself that maybe wasn't enough. I did that, more than I'd like to admit. But here's what I eventually figured out, and this took longer than I expected. Her choice wasn't a verdict on who I was. People make decisions for reasons that have everything to do with them and very little to do with you. That's not me being generous or trying to let her off the hook. That's just true. She didn't do what she did because I was lacking something. She did it because of something in her, some need, some avoidance, some version of herself she hadn't figured out yet. And understanding that didn't make it hurt less immediately, but it stopped me from spending my energy trying to fix a person I had never actually broken. 3 months later, she texted me. I almost didn't read it. I'd gotten good at not reading things I wasn't ready for, but I did. She said she knew I didn't want to hear from her, said she just needed to say one thing. The guy she'd been seeing, he ended things with her 3 weeks in, said she was too complicated. She said that night was the first time she really understood what she'd walked away from. I read that message probably 4 or 5 times, and I'm going to be honest with you because this whole thing has been honest. I didn't feel what I expected to feel. There was no satisfaction. No part of me thought, good. No sense of justice being served. I just felt tired and a little sad. Not for me. For her. For the version of her that had to learn something that hard in order to see clearly. Because here's the thing about wanting someone to hurt the way they hurt you. That feeling lives in a very specific place. It lives in the place where you're still bleeding, and I wasn't bleeding anymore. Not like that, I was healing. And people who are actually healing don't need anyone else to suffer. I didn't reply to her message, not out of anger. There was no anger left. I just had nothing to say. I'm telling you this because I know someone listening right now is in the middle of it. Maybe you saw something you weren't supposed to see. Maybe you've been carrying a feeling you can't quite name for weeks, that something is off but you can't prove it. Maybe you already know and you're just not ready to say it out loud yet. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't hurt. It does. I'm not going to tell you it goes away fast. It doesn't. But I am going to tell you this. The version of you on the other side of it is someone you haven't met yet. And that person is quieter and more sure of themselves and a lot less willing to talk themselves out of what they already know. You don't have to blow everything up today. But when you're ready, trust what you saw. You know what you know. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending the time didn't matter. It means waking up one morning and realizing the first thought in your head wasn't about them. I got there. You will too. If this story felt real to you, if any part of it hit somewhere specific, drop a comment that just says, I've been there. No explanation needed. Just that. And if you're going through it right now, subscribe. Because I'm going to keep telling stories like this one. Real ones. The kind nobody talks about out loud, but everybody needs to hear. I'll see you in the next one.